Hi, everyone, and welcome to July's edit of the Trident Take. I'm Josh, the founder of Trident, and happy to be joined by Ken, who is the MD over at Sorenson Capital. Ken, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Josh. Pleasure to be here.
Ken, do you just want to give everyone a bit of a quick intro? It's kind of like your background, who you are, and obviously today what you're doing at Sorenson.
Yeah, quick overview on me. I started off working at real companies like Apple and Radius, and I started off in the sales and marketing background. And then I've been in venture for the last 26 years. So I've been doing security and software investing, originally at Battery Ventures and then at Lightspeed. And then before starting up Sorenson's early stage fund, Sorenson Ventures, I was at Intel Capital running the security and software groups. So as you probably noticed, we just launched our third early stage fund, $150 million fund. Our theme is that we're going to continue to focus on security and software investments. And we really like this size of fund, $150 million fund, to go after early stage startup companies.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. That's a huge raise.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely dig into that in a second. I do have a question, and I don't know if you have the answer. 26 years, do you know roughly how many investments you've made, how many exits you've had? It must be a huge number.
Well,
Is there a
so
tally that
I
you're
love
keeping
this. I
somewhere?
love this business. I've probably made about 80 investments, probably have about 35 or 40 exits so far. So
Wow.
something to that effect.
Yeah, amazing. All right, cool. I was just well, as my personal gain. I just wanted to know kind of in spending that long in the industry. So yeah, let's talk about Fund Three. So designed to continue to do the early stage. You guys are kind of seed and Series A.
Yes, so we do pre-seed, seed, and Series A. As you know, we have two funds at Sorenson Capital, the early stage venture fund and the growth fund. The early stage venture fund, like I said, is 150 million, and the growth fund is 300 million. And so at Sorenson's early stage fund, what we do is mostly super early stage, completely pre-revenue companies.
Mm.
But we have the ability to invest in companies up to 5 million in annual recurring revenue. And then the growth fund takes over at 5 million in ARR
Right.
and above for their initial investments.
And out of that, without going too confidential, like 150 mil, how many investments do you plan? What's the kind of, have you got that structure
Oh
laid
yeah,
out for the
yeah.
next 5, 10 years?
It's a great question because unlike other funds, we're very concentrated. So we're going to only have about 25 to 30 investments
Okay.
in the fund, and we have four investing partners around that. So we're very different from other funds that invest just a little bit in each company. And the reason for that is that what we like to do is really try to add value with these companies. And we do it in two main ways. One is we open up doors at customers and partners. So I think, like
Hmm.
at RSA, we had the CISO event with about
Yep.
80 chief security officers and only 20 startups. So it takes a lot of time and energy to do that, but we do that and set it up for our portfolio companies. And then the other thing that we do is we help them hire the right VP level teams, and the founders love that, and we like working with folks like you to help make that happen.
Yeah, and I think like there's a lot to be said around like there are certain funds and hey, each to their own, right? Who hedge bets, lots and lots of mini investments, but then don't have the capacity to actually add value because they just don't have the manpower internally to deliver that, right? Versus very concentrated, higher commitment from you guys. Then you're like it's obvious, but the skin in the game piece around, well, if I have put five into that company, then yes, I want to then make sure they can get their first few logos and make sure they get off to the races, right?
Completely agree. And I think you'll
Yeah.
find with all of my partners, we're all very product oriented. So we
Yeah.
love digging in, really understanding the product and the space. And that really is the only way that I think one can help a startup.
So, yeah, I was just going to ask you, Ken, about like how do you view security in terms of like from an investments point of view?
Yeah, so security from an investments point of view, there's really two main ways that we go about it. One
Hmm.
is we look at where the puck is going. So as you can see from the logos behind me, there are several companies that were inventing new spaces.
Yep.
So companies like Talon, which as you know was a secure browser company acquired by Palo Alto Networks. That is a brand new space And there were only a few companies, and we invested in Talon because we've just loved the management team there. We've known them for a long time, and we thought they had the best technical approach. Then there's other spaces where I'd say they're reinventing known spaces in the past.
Mm.
And there's large legacy companies that are not keeping up with innovation. So, an older example of this is when I worked at Intel Capital, we had acquired McAfee. McAfee didn't innovate fast enough on endpoint detection and response, and that spawned some great companies like CrowdStrike, like SentinelOne, and others. And in our portfolio, you mentioned Strongest Layer. Strongest Layer is a next gen email security company and training company all packaged together into one solution. Because what we've seen in the market is that with all these AI attacks, companies like Proofpoint, Mimecast, Abnormal cannot keep up with the issues. And what you want is you want an integrated training solution right in there. So that is reinventing a known space. Phishing has been a
Yeah.
problem for 20 plus years.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Just on the first example you gave around where's the puck going? How do you work out? Because look, we haven't got a crystal ball, right? So how do you not, I suppose, de-risk it before you invest? But how do you then believe that the secure browser is going to be the next thing? Is that CISO conversations? Is there any data-driven approach to that? Like, how do you become that like de-risked kind of future thinking, almost security kind of psychic?
Yeah. So we do depend a lot on our chief security officer network. We
Yeah.
like to ask them from a first principles approach, what are the problems that you have in your organization? Which vendors are not performing for you? And we get a lot of our ideas that way. Many of our ideas are just with entrepreneurs that we know. So what I like to do is I like
Mm.
to keep in touch with not only entrepreneurs that we've backed, but other entrepreneurs that have had really good exits. And then we start ideating about ideas with them, even when they're in their acquired company roles. And we start batting things around. So an example of
Mm.
that is that we were an investor in a company called OpenPath, which is doing physical and logical security. And it was acquired by Motorola Solutions. And it's basically reinventing how you get into buildings. Instead of
Nice.
using a key card, you just have your cell phone to walk in. So we had batted around a lot of ideas with Alex and James and ultimately came up with that idea.
Nice. Okay, awesome. So look, this is the July edition of the Trident Take.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of like big, obviously the big news we discussed, your third fund, which is awesome. But like, are there any kind of trends, or are you seeing something maybe leading into Black Hat in a couple of weeks, or are we seeing as a lull because it's the summer? Like, have you seen any trends? It feels like the investments, the acquisition is still happening. There's still news.
Oh, yeah.
We had the Datadog release recently, right, where they intend to acquire Upwind for $1 billion. But like, is there anything like you're seeing trend wise from your side?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is going to be a lot of hype around cloud security and runtime security specifically,
Yeah.
because of what you said, Datadog um, acquiring Upwind for $1 billion. So there's going to be a lot of information around that at Black Hat. There's some other themes. I do think that deepfake is a very important area.
Yeah.
Many of our companies kind of touch on that, but I am very interested in deepfakes, and I expect to see a lot of new information around that at Black Hat. I also, like I mentioned, I'm also interested in seeing if there's any new and up and coming companies in physical and logical security, because I think that that's a pretty untapped market. There's certainly going to be a lot of startups that are focused on AI as a threat vector. So how do you
Yeah.
protect your organization
Yeah.
because you are starting to use AI? And there's going to be a lot of companies that are showing how they're leveraging AI in their product to protect enterprises. So, that certainly is going to be a theme. But what I'm most interested in are the companies that are off the beaten path,
Mm.
and companies that are solving real problems where they potentially, like we talked at the very beginning, are seeing issues with legacy vendors. So, for example, I love the data leak prevention market.
Hmm.
We don't have a direct investment there yet. We think that the Linux security market is a very interesting
Yep.
market that has not been solved, and we have an investment in Sandfly security there so far, which I think is a very innovative approach.
Yep. I agree. We know the guys there really well. I can't see him on your. You might have to update your board unless it's right
They
directly
might
behind
be
you. Yeah, yeah,
stuck
yeah.
right
There'll be
behind
somewhere.
me.
There'll be
Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't want. I don't want to get a call
yeah,
from Craig.
yeah.
Um,
The other key theme is around identity. And I think, in our portfolio, we have a lot of investments around identity.
yep.
So we think that identity is the new perimeter. And if you think about security, you really need to control identity. We have an investment in Andromeda, which takes identity security all the way from the beginning of visibility to actually solving and the operational issues around identity. And they're the only company that are doing that. But I also like identity verification. We
Hmm.
also have two-factor authentication in our portfolio with companies like ID Layer. So identity is a really, really interesting theme that's untapped.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I agree with all your previous points as well. So if I'm a founder, probably at pre-seed looking to raise, I've got a great idea, a couple of co-founders, I can reach out to you on LinkedIn. I'll put your LinkedIn profile in this video as well, so they can reach out to you. But like, just you'll be at Black Hat and just to connect with you and say hello.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, anybody should feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I put out, you have your podcast. I have Ken Cryptid, the kind of next gen magazine approach.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I'd like to try and avoid are the companies where you're one of 80 companies in a market. So I'm not sure if you saw the article that I wrote about baby zombies, but there's just
Yes.
too
Yes.
many companies
Sleeping
that are
zombies.
doing
Yeah.
the same things,
Mm.
and these little startups unfortunately are not going to get liftoff, and they're also not going to get acquired. And so I'm looking for these really innovative areas where entrepreneurs are just phenomenal at coming up with that.
In a just on that baby zombie point, just while I'm thinking of it, and I don't want to go off too much of a tangent here, but serious question. How do I know if I'm a founder of a business, how do I know if I am a baby zombie, right? Are there indicators that you look for as an investor to say, we probably won't invest in these guys at Series A because they haven't hit the metrics or the SaaS milestones that you expect? Like, how do I know if I go, because everyone thinks that their baby is the prettiest, right? And we're always on everyone's on a great rocket ship. Is it an investor turns around and says to him, right, no more cash, you now need to be profitable? And then you're like, holy shit, are we a zombie? Like, how do I
Yeah.
know if I'm going down that path?
Well, I think part of it is if you go and talk to customers, that the customers don't understand and appreciate your differentiation. So that
Mm,
is one thing. So take a market like DSPM.
yep,
Companies like Dig Security were
yeah,
successful, but literally there's 80 other companies in the space, and we love Dig Security, but we did not invest in the space because we didn't think that there was that much differentiation between the companies. And there are many DSPM baby
yep.
zombies, as an example. And so those entrepreneurs need to figure out what is the way that I should pivot my company to be very differentiated.
Yeah, and I think that also can be flipped into once the founders identify that piece, you need to be able to demonstrate and explain that to people that are interviewing with you, to investors, to customers. Everybody's a customer, right? Whether they're interviewing with you or an actual a potential new logo. Yeah, good advice. Ken,
Yeah. So what we look for, the way that we try to make sure that we're picking the best companies and not future baby zombie is it sounds very simple, but we look at three things. One, the management team. Does this management team have the right domain experience
yep,
for the problem that they're solving? And if you look at Wiz as an example, those founders were running cloud security at Microsoft and they
yep,
came out and started Wiz. That makes total sense.
yep,
Two is this company going after a small but rapidly growing market? This is for those companies that are going after where the puck is going.
mhm,
And by definition, you want to go after a small market because if you go after a large market, there's already large competitors in that market. And then three is what is the differentiation? It could be technical differentiation. It could be channel differentiation. So we're a
Mm.
huge proponent of MSPs as a channel and have an investment in Evo and several others that are leveraging MSPs. But what is your differentiation as a company?
Yeah, very good advice. Particularly for those that will reach out to you and want to meet you at Black Hat, right? Think of those three talk topics because they know that you're going to grill them on those three. And
Well, it's not, it's, Josh, it's not really. I love working with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the ones that are doing the hard work out there. I'm here just really to support them. And I really do want to shout out to all the entrepreneurs that are doing startups in security. Thank you very much. This country, this world really needs you to stay ahead of the attackers.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Ken, thank you for joining. And I appreciate your time. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.